from Toronto, St. Paul.
Thank you for the question. It's an important question because here we are in Parliament asking for documentation, which is our privilege. It's not being produced. This could be over, as I've said before, in 35 seconds by producing the documentation. So, Mr. Speaker, that's all we need to happen here is for the will of Parliament to be honoured.
I hate to interrupt the questions and comments for the Honourable Member. The Honourable Member have 6 minutes and 12 seconds left for questions and comments when we resume debate on this motion at the next opportunity. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The Honourable Member from Ottawa West, Nepean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is World Polio Day. Today we renew our collective resolve for a world where no child suffers from this paralyzing and deadly disease. Through efforts of organizations like Rotary International, we have successfully reduced polio cases by 99% since 1979, with 3 billion children vaccinated. Through effort, pour garantir que nous réalisons l'objectif.
We will be able to eliminate polio, and we are committed to doing so. And to that end, Canada has committed $151 million to the Global Polio Eradication Initiative.
The tireless efforts of the health workers and the 20 million volunteers who have journeyed to the most remote corners of the world in 200 countries, delivering not just vaccines, but hope. Let the end of polio be not just a goal, but a legacy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Edmonton, Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, today is World Polio Day, a day to highlight global efforts to end polio. In 1996, Nelson Mandela said, quote, "Our aim is not merely to reduce the numbers afflicted, it is to eliminate the disease completely. No country can be safe from this disease until the whole world is rid of it." Today, we're so close to that goal, with Canada consistently playing a leading role. 3 Canadian Prime Ministers, including former Conservative Prime Minister Stephen Harper, have been recipients of the Rotary Foundation's Polio Eradication Champion Award. And Canadian Jennifer Jones, who recently served as Rotary International's first female president, relentlessly continued Canada's leadership in this fight, working with dedicated partners like UNICEF, the Gates Foundation, Global Citizen, Results, and many others. Here in this House, members from all parties have time and time again united around efforts of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, and the world is better for it. Now we need to finish the job.
Wow.
The Honourable Member for Alfred Penneau. Mr. Speaker, in 2018, the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada asked the House of Commons to declare October 24, 2018 as the first Brain Cancer Awareness Day in Canada. That year also saw the launch of the first HoC for Hope campaign. Canadians were invited to show their support by sharing their HoC photo on social media. Thanks to this campaign, the date became a symbol of solidarity in the face of this devastating disease. I'll be wearing mine when I leave this room today in memory of my mother and in support of the 27 people in Canada every day who are diagnosed with a brain tumor. And do you have your toque or sweater of hope? Thank you to the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada for its tireless work that makes a real difference. And thank you to everyone who will be wearing their toques today. The Honourable Member for Pierre-Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. I rise in the House today to highlight the 40th annual Salon des Métiers d'Art de Boucherville, which is taking place November 1st to 3rd, 2024. Except for 2 years where it took a break during the pandemic, this event has happened every year since the first time in 1982, and it's a success. Every time, thousands of visitors come in and find unique and original products for their Christmas gifts or for themselves. This success is due in large part to the passionate, devoted president who has been at the head for 30 years, and I congratulate René Lavoie for that work. I also want to thank the contribution of the members of the committee who support that work: Céline Lozeau, Suzanne Heinzen, Isabelle Ross, and Nathalie Métivier. Thank you for promoting the talent of artists from Quebec. Thank you for giving them this chance to shine.
The honourable member from Labrador.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to congratulate an extraordinary Labradorian, William Larkham Jr., for his incredible achievement on Season 11 of the reality show Alone, aired on the History Channel. William hails from the tiny outport community of Williams Harbour, and his determination, resilience, and unmatched survival skills were on full display as he spent 84 grueling days north of the Arctic Circle near Nunavut in the Northwest Territories, enduring the harsh environment of the Arctic on the series Alone. He was one of 10 contestants, and he was the last one standing. His triumph earned him the grand prize of $500,000 US and a testament to his strength, knowledge of the land, and the spirit of survival. William's journey not only brought Labradorians to the edge of their seat, but it showcased his deep connection he has with land, water, and the remarkable skills passed down through generations of culture in the region. I congratulate William, and I ask all Labradorians, all parliamentarians, to join me in offering him our very best wishes.
The honourable member from King Vaughan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Through my many years of volunteering with Creating Alternatives and the Down Syndrome Foundation, I have witnessed firsthand the profound impact of inclusion and the importance of celebrating each individual's unique abilities. These experiences have deeply touched my heart and inspired me to put forward Motion 123, which calls on the government to recognize March 21st as the National Down Syndrome Day. So, by doing so, we will align with the United Nations, but also honor and celebrate the incredible contributions that individuals with Down syndrome make to our communities. Their love, positivity, and unwavering spirit enrich the lives of everyone around them. I am confident that my colleagues on both sides of the House will join me in supporting this motion. Together, we can affirm our commitment to recognizing and celebrating the abilities and contributions of all Canadians, regardless of the challenges they may face.
The
honourable member for Ottawa-Vanier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ensuring the vitality of Francophone communities outside Quebec is a priority for our government, and immigration can be a powerful tool to help us achieve that goal. Thanks to the 25 to 27 Immigration Levels Plan, the percentage of Francophone permanent residents amongst all permanent residents admitted to Canada outside Quebec will be 8.5% in 2025, 9.5% in 2026, and 10% in 2027. These targets demonstrate our commitment to ensuring growth of French-speaking communities and official language minority communities, and are in line with our Francophone immigration policy. I'm proud to be part of a government that promotes the ongoing vitality and prosperity of our communities. This is great news, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Markham Unionville.
Today, the Minister of Immigration tabled a 2025-2027 Immigration Levels Plan, a plan that will pause population growth in the short term to achieve well-managed, sustainable growth in the long term. Our government has been taking concrete action, including the recent reforms to the International Students Program, to ensure system integrity, and the results are showing. Many university and college cities are experiencing rental downturns, at least partially due to the cap on international students. In Vancouver and Toronto, rent went down 11% and 8.1% respectively. We are committed to achieving long-term goal and ensuring a well-managed, sustainable immigration system where everyone has a fair chance to succeed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Charleswood St. James, Assiniboia Headingley.
After 9 years, this NDP Liberal government has allowed anti-Jewish hate crimes to increase by 400%. Members of the Jewish community make up just 1% of Canada's population, but are the targets of 70% of all religiously motivated hate crimes in Canada. Synagogues have been firebombed. Jewish schools have been shot at. Jewish-owned businesses have been vandalized, and Jewish-founded hospitals have been barricaded. Calls for death to Jews are coming from radical, Hamas-loving, Jew-hating, terrorist sympathizers on the streets in front of Jewish seniors' homes. Jewish Canadians didn't ask to be targeted with acts of hate and violence, and this escalation of hate and fear is just not the Canadian way. Enough is enough. When will this Prime Minister finally stand up for Jewish Canadians, take this disgusting rise in anti-Semitism seriously so that every Jew, no matter where they live, no matter where they work, and no matter where they go to school, can live safe and live free from hate?
Yeah.
The honourable member from Mississauga, Aaron Mills.
Mr. Speaker, I am astonished by the blatant disregard of the Leader of the Opposition has shown for the well-being of Canadians. His willful ignorance of critical security threats facing our nation is deeply concerning. Recently, RCMP's investigations have shown alarming evidence of agents from the Government of India engaging in serious criminal activity in Canada, including homicides, extortion, and threats to the South Asian community. Our citizens are under credible and imminent threat, yet the Leader of the Opposition continues to peddle empty slogans, refusing to do the substantive work to address these threats. His dog whistle politics are putting putting Canadians at risk every single day. Mr. Speaker, will the Leader of the Opposition put aside his selfish interests, obtain the necessary security clearance, and protect the integrity of not just the democratic process, but of his own party and all Canadians? Thank you.
The honourable member from Cumberland Colchester.
Here. Speaker, not surprisingly, the NDP Liberals' so-called safe supply fiasco has torn a hole in yet another Canadian community. Hydromorphone seized by the Sarnia Police has gone up by 170% in the first 8 months of this year, and a local addictions doctor has said diversion is to blame. The government talks about evidence, but when the evidence tells them something they don't want to hear, they just ignore it. Exactly. Every city touched by so-called safe supply has suffered. In Vancouver, 50% of all hydromorphone seizures were diverted from so-called safe supply. In London, the street price of hydromorphone dropped by 90%. In Port Coquitlam, children are accessing government-supplied opioids. This is homicidal humanitarianism. The evidence is right there, and the NDP Liberals do not care. Common sense Conservatives want Canadians suffering from addiction to survive and thrive, not suffer and die. We will restore their dignity and bring them home drug-free.
The honourable member from Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
After 9 years of the NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and their time is up. This NDP Liberal government is refusing to turn over documents to the RCMP showing that Liberal-appointed managers used the Green Slush Fund to pay nearly $400 million to companies that they themselves owned. The Prime Minister is not worth the cost or the corruption. In northern BC, residents are losing their logging, oil, gas, mining, and other natural resource jobs because this radical NDP Liberal Environment Minister. Meanwhile, the same radical NDP Liberal Environment Minister and Prime Minister take $400 million they take from you in carbon tax and pay off their NDP Liberal friends. Why won't NDP Liberals end the cover-up and give proof to police so Parliament can get back to work for Canadians?
Hear, hear.
The honourable member from Vancouver, Granville.
Mr. Speaker, national security should be the responsibility and the priority of every single member of this House. We've seen over the last number of months and years the alarming rate with which foreign governments have sought to interfere with the democratic processes in this country and to damage our democracy. Every single one of us in this House bears a responsibility and obligation to ensure that we are well prepared and well informed in the face of these threats. Canadians know that our leaders having a security clearance is table stakes. but apparently not the Leader of the Opposition.
He's hiding something.
I know firsthand that top secret clearance process is detailed and precise, but it is something that gives our national security agencies absolute confidence in our integrity and our ability to be trusted with sensible and sensitive information. I simply cannot understand why the Leader of the Opposition refuses to get a security clearance. As the Prime Minister said yesterday, if he cares about this country and he cares about Canadians, he'll get the clearance, take the briefing, and protect the country. Why won't he?
The honourable member from Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, at this very moment, there are thousands of workers rallying for respect and for their collective bargaining rights at the legislature in Alberta. Members of CUPE Local 3550 were stripped of their rights to strike by the Alberta government after they voted 97% in favor of job action. Education assistants, administrative staff, librarians, and student support staff are the backbone of our education system. They make our schools run, they support our teachers, and most importantly, they help our children. But they are not being treated with the respect they deserve. These workers, mostly women, 94% of Local 3550's members are women, work difficult, stressful jobs while making poverty wages. Now their most basic rights are being denied. Workers are tired of subsidizing funding cuts with poverty wages. Today and every day, I stand with the dedicated workers of CUPE 3550 and all the workers across Canada and Alberta.
Here, 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 here.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski, Nejet, Témiscouata, Les Basques. Mr. Speaker, today I would like to mark the 50th anniversary of the founding of the École de Technologie Supérieure, which was founded in Montreal in 1974. Over the years, it has become a major success, graduating 25% of all of Quebec's engineers, ranking first in Quebec for the number of undergraduate engineering graduates. It's a member of the University of Quebec network, and today ETS has more than 11,000 students, 290 professors, and 77 research chairs, groups, and units. In short, it's a world-renowned incubator of grey matter. It ensures Quebec's prosperity by training our future engineers who will meet current and future technological challenges. It continues to grow, and the years to come promise to be even more successful for Quebec engineering. Imagine what's coming next. Long live the École de Technologie Supérieure, and happy 50th anniversary.
The honourable member from Stormont, Dundas, South Glengarry.
After 9 years of the NDP Liberals, even Liberal MPs now acknowledge that the Prime Minister is not worth the cost, the crime, the corruption, and now the chaos. Instead of trying to fix their mess of doubling housing costs or the record number of food bank visits, Liberal MPs are in full panic mode trying to save their own jobs. After 24 Liberal MPs told the Prime Minister yesterday that he's become so toxic that he needs to resign, the Immigration Minister called his own colleagues garbage. It got so bad during the caucus meeting, Liberals were fleeing the meeting to the bathroom to text journalists about how angry that they were. Yet the Prime Minister is completely out of touch and is still forging ahead with his plan to quadruple the carbon tax. But it is now clear, Mr. Speaker, everything in this country is broken because the Liberal Party is broken. But the solution is simple. If they can't get their act together, just call a carbon tax election, because Conservatives on this side are fired up and ready to go.
Let's have a public safety election.
The honourable member from Pickering, Uxbridge.
Speaker, Canadians want to know why the Leader of the Opposition won't get his security clearance. Why doesn't he want to learn about ways that the governments like India work to disrupt our institutions? And it can't be those weak excuses that he will be muzzled, because every other leader in this House has received their clearance and has not been prevented from speaking on the matters at hand, Mr. Speaker. The Leader of the Opposition has a choice. He can get the clearance, he can take the briefings, and he can protect the country. Or will he turn a blind eye to the actions of governments like India and who try to undermine our democracy? Will he stand up for Canadians or will he stand with governments of it like India? Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition has a choice. Party over country, Canadians want to know.
Absolutely.
Oral questions. Questions orales. The honourable member from Regina Capel.
After 9 years of this Liberal NDP Prime Minister, it's clear he's not worth the cost, the crime, the corruption, or chaos. The Liberal caucus is revolting, because even in one safe Liberal seats, voters are angry. They're angry that the Prime Minister raised their prices and devalued their paychecks with his inflation. They're angry that their grocery and home heating costs keep going up because of his carbon tax, and they're angry that their cars keep getting stolen, their parks are full of dirty needles, and homeless encampments now line their streets. So will the Prime Minister put an end to the anger, spread some much-needed joy, and call a carbon tax election so Canadians can decide?
The Honourable Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
We know that Canadians have had a tough couple of years as a result of the rising cost of living and global inflation, but Canadian households are right to ask who is actually fighting for them. I can tell you it's not Conservative caucus members who don't want to forgive interest on student loans. It's not the Conservative leader who wants to take away the Canada Child Benefit, and if you don't believe me, look at his voting record. It's not the Conservative caucus members who want to make sure that Canadian women don't have access to free birth control. Mr. Speaker, in the next election, people are going to ask themselves, do they want a Liberal government who cares about them or a Conservative leader who cares about himself?
The honourable member from Regina Capel.
Has it been a tough couple of years, Mr. Speaker? It's been a tough 9 years of this NDP Liberal Prime Minister. And now taxes are up, costs are up, crime's up, and time's up. It's not just Conservatives saying that, it's Liberal MPs too. You see, they can't do it anymore. They can't convince voters that taxes are going down when in fact they're going up. They can't convince their voters that home prices are becoming more affordable when they keep getting more expensive. And they can't convince their voters that crime is down when it just keeps getting worse. So now they're trying to convince the Prime Minister to resign. But since he won't, will he do the next best thing and call a carbon tax election so Canadians can decide?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to share some facts, if I might. I stand here as the Minister of Women and Gender Equality and Youth, and I wonder if this ministry will even exist if Conservatives were to gain power. Here are the facts. Conservatives will cut services to survivors of gender-based violence. They'll cut critical supports for women entrepreneurs. They'll cut life-saving support for grassroots organizations. They will cut pharmacare and contraceptives for women. We on this side of the House stand for women and gender-diverse people. They do not. Straight facts, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Regina Capel.
That is baseless and false. We're going to cut the carbon tax, eliminate it, and defund the CBC and put that savings back in taxpayers' pockets. But consider where we are. It's actually kind of amazing. Liberal MPs are so frustrated that they're not allowed to speak in caucus, they're actually confiding in Conservatives. They have to sneak out to the bathroom to have therapy text sessions with journalists, and cabinet ministers call their own colleagues garbage because they're speaking out against the Prime Minister's terrible record. He's losing control, he's losing confidence, he lost the plot a long time ago, so for the love of all that's holy, will he finally call a carbon tax election?
The Honourable Minister for...
Leader of the Opposition, the Leader of the Conservatives would do if he was the Prime Minister, he would cut things like the Canada Summer Jobs Program, Mr. Speaker, something that exists in every one of our communities that is so important to employers and so important to kids. Mr. Speaker, do you think that we would be able to maintain our progress on clean water? He would cut funding to First Nations dependent on a real and fair, equitable solution.
Perhaps we'll take just a quick second so that people can reflect on the fact that you must not take the floor if you have not been recognized by the Speaker.
That you should not be speaking unless you're recognized by the Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Do you know, Mr. Speaker, why the Prime Minister was all smiles yesterday when he left his chaotic caucus where 24 MPs called for his departure? It's simple, because the Prime Minister knows he can count on the support of the 32 Bloc Québécois MPs down there to keep him in office. The Bloc supported this Prime Minister despite the fact that he doubled the cost of housing, he inflated the cost of food, he caused a rise in violent crime and created the worst immigration crisis in Canadian history. Will the Prime Minister take a look behind him, hear the message from his backbenchers and Quebecers, and call an election now? The Honourable Minister for Fisheries and Oceans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Listen. The sheer hypocrisy of the Conservative Party is eminently clear. Let us not forget that the leader of the Conservative government at the time removed benefits for diabetics. Since then, they've voted against free pharmacare for people living with diabetes. We see the Conservatives are all about doublespeak. That's all they're about. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Well, the Minister should perhaps go round her caucus and notice that 24 of her MPs have come out to demand the Prime Minister's departure just this week. A Prime Minister that's doubled national debt, mortgage prices that has allowed criminality to explode. The Prime Minister's incompetence, Mr. Speaker, has led to an alarm bell being rang in amongst his own partisans who are calling for a change of leadership. He even sent one of his ministers to say that opponents within his party, his own MPs, are garbage. The Prime Minister is simply not worth the cost, nor the insults. When is he going to drop the writ? The Honourable Minister for Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let us talk about housing and incompetence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Mr. Speaker. 6 affordable housing units. That's all the Conservative leader was able to do when he was housing minister throughout the country. He can't even find where these 6 are. He's trying to figure out where he can go to find them. Did someone perhaps build something that he could appropriate? No. Only 6 housing units. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member from La Prairie. For years, the Bloc Québécois has been alone in Ottawa in pointing out that the federal government's immigration targets are leading us straight into a wall. For years, the government has been lecturing us, saying that there is no such thing as an intake capacity limit, lecturing us that to talk about reception capacity is to directly criticise immigrants, lecturing us that Quebec doesn't lack the capacity to welcome immigrants, it lacks the will. And then finally today, the federal government has decided to do a 180 and lower its immigration thresholds. Why did they wait until the whole of Canada was in crisis before finally listening to Quebecers? The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Citizenship. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What we have moved today is a reasonable immigration plan by reducing permanent residency targets and temporary residency targets. This is a reasonable and reasoned plan that comes from contributions from people coast to coast to coast that asked us to reduce our volumes. I think that Canadians should be proud. It's not a radical reduction. It's about the same as the plan we proposed in 2020, but I think that's going to serve Canadians in Quebec as well. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, not only has the federal government finally agreed with us on intake capacity, it has also recognised the Bloc Québécois' call for successful immigration. I quote from their report on immigration. For immigration to succeed, housing, education, healthcare, childcare and other essential services must keep pace with projected population growth. Well, gosh, Mr. Speaker, they've figured it out. Quebecers have been telling them for years, but it wasn't until Canadians told them that they would finally listen. Why didn't they listen to Quebecers before instead of lecturing us throughout the years? The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Citizenship and Refugees. I'd like to thank to the Bloc's contributions to national unity.
The Honourable Member from Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, abortion is health care, but under this Liberal government, so many Canadians still don't have access to reproductive health care. And for those who live outside of larger urban centres, it's almost impossible. You know, the anti-choice Conservatives would only make this worse. The Trump-light leader and his extremist cabinet has voted 5 times against to restrict abortions. And while the Prime Minister talks a good game, he hasn't done enough to ensure that Canadians get the care that they deserve. Why hasn't the government taken access to reproductive health care seriously?
The Honourable Minister for Women and Gender Equality.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for her advocacy, but the right to an abortion and access to it go hand in hand. And through a $45 million sexual and reproductive health fund, we're addressing that. We're making sure, Mr. Speaker, that Canadians facing obstacles accessing reproductive health care are supported financially, and organizations providing those essential services have capacity funding. While Conservatives MPs try to limit a woman's right to choose, we'll continue to work hard at opening every possible door, Mr. Speaker, to increasing access.
The Honourable Member from London Fanshawe.
Canadians have heard that Liberal rhetoric before, but the point here is that abortion care and access to it isn't good enough. Women and gender-diverse Canadians are scared. They know that their rights are under attack, and they've seen far-right movements and politicians in Canada emboldened. The Conservatives continue to side with anti-choice movements and believe that Canada is a, quote, lawless state of fetal killing. But we know abortion is health care. Will this Liberal government use the Canada Health Act to make sure that all Canadians have full access to abortion?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, and I completely agree. Abortion is health care. It's absolutely essential that every woman in every part of this country has access not only to abortion, but to the reproductive tools that she needs to have control and autonomy over her own body. And we are making remarkable progress on that. Signing agreements with every province and every territory, having indicators common on health standards across the country, making sure that for the first time every woman everywhere has access to the contraceptives that she needs. That's what freedom looks like. That's what we're delivering.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member from Calgary Shepherd.
After 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, time is up, and now even excuses are up. The Prime Minister now admits he destroyed Canada's immigration system and the 150-year immigration consensus. He can't fix what he broke. He can't fix immigration. He can't fix housing or anything else right now because he's fighting his own caucus. So instead of blaming everyone else, including immigrants like myself, will he just admit that he shattered the immigration system and caused lasting damage to Canada's housing market, healthcare, and jobs?
The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Citizenship and Refugees.
Thank you, Monsieur le Président. Look, I was flabbergasted to hear the Leader of the Opposition's answer today, the most immature answer on immigration that I've ever heard. He's late to the game. He's so late to the game on this, he hasn't even come up with a slogan yet. So when he comes up with a slogan, perhaps we'll take the chance to respond. But what we propose is a plan for controlled migration. We're proud of it. It serves Canadians well.
The Honourable Member from Calgary Shepherd.
Thank you, Speaker. It's rich coming from that particular minister who called 24 Liberal MPs garbage because they're looking after their own careers and worried they're not going to make it. They're not going to be here after the next election because their own constituents are going to send them to the unemployment line. Now, this Prime Minister is reckless, and he even said it himself. He didn't get it right. He said it during his own press conference. He didn't get it right on immigration. He didn't get it right on housing. He can't get it right on the carbon tax. So, will the Prime Minister just admit that his flip-flop has destroyed the immigration system and accept his own personal failure?
The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Refugees and
What
Citizenship.
I said, Mr. Speaker, is that it's garbage to focus on anything other than the circus clown that he's supporting.
The honourable minister to please withdraw that comment. That was unparliamentary towards another member of Parliament.
Mr. Speaker, I withdraw the comment.
Thank you. The honourable member from Oxford.
After 9 years of the NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and chaos in our immigration system is also up. The Liberal NDP government has broken our world-class immigration system with their reckless policies. And today's immigration flip-flop is a massive admission of their own failures. The Prime Minister said that he didn't get the balance quite right. That's an understatement. That is clearly obvious with the state of our country today. Exactly. So will the Prime Minister admit that he broke Canada's consensus on immigration and call a carbon tax election now?
The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
I'll have to put forward a plan instead of slogans. I haven't even heard the slogan on this because he's been so delinquent on coming up with any valid points to be made on the immigration system, the consensus of which is challenged. Let's hear him. Let's hear his plan. Let's even start hearing the slogan because we haven't heard it yet.
The Honourable Member from Oxford.
Mr. Speaker, they're trying to be firefighters when they're the ones that are causing the fires in the first place. That's right. We had a consensus on immigration in this country, and this incompetent Prime Minister broke it. Right. They ignored warnings from their own officials. They dropped police clearance certificates from their own background checks for temporary residents. They even told their own officials to skip vetting for temporary foreign workers. Wow. So there is no doubt that after 9 years, they have broken the consensus on immigration. Will they call a carbon tax election now so common sense Conservatives could clean up their mess?
The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Mr. Speaker, if the member opposite thinks that security certificates from the Modi government are reliable, he needs a little clearance too on top of his leader, who should probably get a better briefing on the national security of this country. Get the clearance, get the briefing, stop being a baby, and be responsible.
Order. Order. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Échemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, there's chaos in immigration. Like in the Liberal caucus, this government broke the immigration system with the help of the Bloc that voted to keep the government in power. Let us remember that this coalition left Roxham Road open 1 year after the United States moved to close it. To govern well is to forecast well. Our government will bring back coherence, planification, and a common-sense Prime Minister. We want elections right now, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Minister for Citizenship, Immigration and Refugees. Mr. Speaker, it's been full incoherence from the Leader of the Opposition, in fact. I would like to hear what the member has to say on her Francophone strategy outside of Quebec, because finally we've reached our target of 6% of Francophone permanent residents outside of Quebec will hit 10%. It'll be the first time in our history. They should be proud of it. They should support us on this matter. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Échemins-Lévis. I would like to remind everyone, everything has been broken by this government, and the Bloc Québécois voted almost 200 times to keep the government in power. Today, we've seen a desperate attempt from the Prime Minister to repair what he broke himself. Full confusion in the changes made to immigration, full incoherence and full improv from the Liberal government. Only a Conservative government could repair the immigration system and will repair the immigration system. Our message is clear. We want elections, and we want them now. The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Citizenship and Refugees. The Honourable Member decided to read off her page instead of answering my question. I want to hear what the Conservative parties are planning, because they're not even mature enough. They haven't even thought an iota about the slogan on this matter. I would like to hear their plan. Our plan is reasonable and will control immigration in a reasonable way for Canada and Quebec for the next 3 years. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. The Liberals have finally started to listen to the message from Quebecers put forward by the Bloc Québécois. Instead of raising their immigration targets to 500,000 a year, they are going to lower them to 365,000 by 2027. If Quebec wanted to follow the federal government's new target, it would still have to take in more than 80,000 immigrants per year. That's higher than Quebec's target, and no political party in Quebec is proposing more than 80,000 a year. So how did the federal government figure out that Quebec's capacity to accept immigrants is greater than the evaluation and reckoning of all the parties in Quebec City? The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Citizenship and Refugees. Mr. Speaker, the member across the way knows full well that Quebec's government has approved an agreement with us. They have jurisdiction over their numbers. We're waiting to hear from their plan. We've proposed a plan on a Canadian scale. We're waiting to hear what they have to say, and they will be able to do what they do under the current agreement. We give them $6 billion for francisation and immigration, and we will continue to work with them. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. On that subject, the proposed new thresholds are a step forward, yes, but they still force Quebec to choose between accepting a greater number of immigrants or losing political weight in Canada. That said, Quebec's main concern is still temporary immigration, especially asylum seekers. There is still no plan whatsoever for spreading asylum seekers in amongst the provinces, and Quebec continues to be responsible for almost half of all asylum seekers in Canada. Mr. Speaker, it is the federal government's responsibility to convince reluctant provinces to do their part. So what are they waiting for? The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Citizenship and Refugees. It's wrong that Quebec welcomes 50% of asylum seekers. He just has to consult the statistics that we provide. Statistics Canada states that there have been decreases of asylum seekers at Trudeau Airport in Montreal. It's now at 29%. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. While there is still no fair distribution of migrants between provinces, there is a real risk that migration will skyrocket after the US elections in just 12 days' time. Presidential candidate Trump, should he win, is proposing to deport 11 million people. So if he wins, organizations in Quebec have told us that they expect many people to conclude that they should just pack up and head to Canada. Last time Trump threatened deportations, we ended up with Roxham Road. If the minister is as intelligent as he claims to be, I imagine he already has a plan. Time's ticking. The elections are in 12 days. The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Citizenship and Refugees. I didn't hear a question in that. It was just a statement.
The Honourable Member from Thornhill.
The former immigration minister and the MP from Central Nova oversaw population growth in this country of 200% over the past several years. He lost track of the people that he let in. Worse, he saw international students living in homeless shelters or with 14 roommates in a basement, all while he ignored his department's advice on it was too much and too fast. Watching the impact of these failed policies on housing, the Prime Minister said, "That's my guy for housing." Why did the Prime Minister promote this guy instead of firing him?
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Speaker, the opposition would like to distract from the issues that actually matter most to Canadians. They focus these days on caucus unity. I would actually point out she sits just a few seats down from a colleague who just a few years ago she criticized for casting aspersions on the LGBTQ2+ community. When it comes to the work that we're actually doing to get the homes built, we are doing everything we can to build more affordable housing. When their leader was actually in the position of housing minister, he got only 6 affordable housing units built across the entire country. We're going to focus on what matters to Canadians, not the distractions that they try to put on the floor of the House of Commons.
The Honourable Member from Thornhill.
195,000 was the number, and that's a number that minister would only dream of building because some people fail upwards. Even Canada's current immigration minister said, quote, "It's really a system that has gotten out of control." He was talking about the same immigration system controlled by the new housing guy who lost track of the people who he let in and is now laughably in charge of fueling the housing crisis that the Prime Minister created. The Prime Minister can't possibly fix housing or immigration or anything else because he's fighting his own caucus. So if the Prime Minister won't fire this guy, will he resign in disgrace?
The Honourable Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, my feelings. Look, they're going to be disappointed to know that I spend no time or energy thinking about the insults they hurl at me. What concerns me is the insults that they hurl at Canadians. But I do have news for the honourable member, because she stated a fact that needs to be dispelled. 6 is the number of affordable housing units that the government helped build. They're trying to take credit for the number of homes that Canadians built. But Mr. Speaker, here's the kicker, and I've got news. That number, if we accept it as the right metric, is the worst record of any housing minister in the last 10 years. If they want a prize for their leader's efforts, it's the prize for biggest loser.
The honourable member from Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of these NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, time is up. The former Minister of Immigration and MP for Central Nova was responsible for population growth of 200% in the past several years. Worse, he saw international students living in homeless shelters and in cramped quarters while ignoring departmental warnings that immigration levels were rising too fast. Now, watching the impact of these failed policies on housing, the Prime Minister sat back and proudly said, "That's my guy, that's my housing minister." Why did the Prime Minister promote this minister? Instead of simply firing him, are the two of them waiting to get a pink slip from the Liberal caucus?
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, they want to talk about immigration as failure. I'm surprised that they would call it a failure that we provided refuge to hundreds of thousands of vulnerable Ukrainians who fled a war of aggression. I'm surprised that they think it's a failure to have made good on our commitment to welcome 40,000 Afghan refugees, including those who actually fought alongside the Canadian forces. Now, I shouldn't be surprised, Mr. Speaker, because they have opposed our support for Ukraine at every step of the way. They campaign on a commitment to welcome precisely 0 Afghan refugees. Immigration in this country, Mr. Speaker, is not a failure, it is a strength.
I'm going to encourage all members, please, not to speak out of turn when they are not recognized by the chair. The honourable member from Port Moody, Coquitlam.
10 million Canadians won't have a family doctor by the end of the decade. With an aging population, this is unacceptable. The Liberals have been dragging their feet for years on health care, while the Conservatives' answer is to make people pay for that care. Despite the Liberals' announcements, the pan-Canadian licensure for doctors is still not a reality, which would get more people connected with a doctor. Why are the Liberals dragging their feet on this simple health solution?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would say to the honourable member that was an absolutely critical point of conversation at the last health ministers meeting, where we've committed to doing that. In fact, you take a look at what was done in the Atlantic provinces. We're moving forward with exactly that. And the agreements that we've signed with every province, every territory, $200 billion. Just today, we got baseline data that shows on surgical wait times and on making sure that the number of surgeries are provided, that we're back ahead of where we were prior to the pandemic. That on doctors and nurses, there are more doctors and nurses in virtually every province and every territory. We're making important progress.
The honourable member from Victoria.
While Canadians are worried about massive flooding and wildfires, Conservatives are rubbing elbows with the same CEOs who are fueling the climate crisis. The Conservative leader spent a night schmoozing with these executives at his $1,600 a plate fundraiser. He's not listening to hardworking Canadians. But the Liberals are no better. They met with oil and gas lobbyists 5 times a day. Shameful. Canadians should come first, not CEOs. So why are the Liberals ripping a page from the Conservative playbook and putting CEOs ahead of people?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as opposed to the Conservative leader, I can assure the member opposite that no oil lobbyists have organized fundraisers for me. But I would like to quote her colleague from her own party, Madam Speaker, the member for Rosemont-La Petite Patrie, who said, as a New Democrat, as a progressive, as an environmentalist, we're in favor of putting a price on pollution, Mr. Speaker. Well, it would look like that under pressure from the Conservative, the NDP are no longer conservative, no longer progressive, no longer environmentalist, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Scarborough Centre.
Mr. Speaker, today is a big day. The Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship just tabled the immigration levels plan for 2025-2027. This is a comprehensive plan that will align the number of newcomers to the supports available in the country, as immigration is essential to Canada from an economic, social and cultural perspective. A well-managed, robust immigration system is vital. Could the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship provide an update on our government's efforts towards ensuring a sustainable immigration system where everyone has a fair chance to succeed?
The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to personally thank the member for her contribution on this matter. She knows well as on this side of the House how important immigration is to this country, its past and its future. We need a manageable system that is controllable. This is what we are doing today with the levels plan. The reductions that we have proposed alleviate the impacts on infrastructure and housing. It's something that Canadians can be immensely proud of, and we should be very proud of the immigrants that continue to build this country and make it better than what it is today.
Yeah. The honourable member from Kildonan St. Paul.
After 9 years of NDP Liberals, violent crime is up and police have had enough, Mr. Speaker. Frontline officers in Toronto, York, Vancouver, Surrey are all slamming the Prime Minister for his self-congratulatory social media campaign where he promoted his failed handgun policy that has done nothing to stop violent gun crime, which is up, in fact, by 116% since the Liberals took power 9 years ago. When is the Prime Minister going to stop patting himself on the back for his failures and start listening to police?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, one important difference between our government and the Conservative Party is we don't believe assault-style military firearms have their place on Canadian streets. We have made those firearms, Mr. Speaker, illegal. We're taking steps to compensate law-abiding gun owners that purchase these rifles, particularly so we can remove them from the streets. That's something that police officers in my conversations have been very supportive of, and they're very worried, Mr. Speaker, that the Conservative Party have plans to, in fact, evacuate all those important measures. That's not in the interest of public safety.
That's right.
The honourable member from Kildonan St. Paul.
You know, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to let the police association speak for themselves to that Liberal minister and to this Liberal Prime Minister. From Surrey, BC, quote, the federal handgun freeze fails to address the real issue, which is the surge of illegal firearms coming across our border ending up in the hands of violent criminals. From Vancouver, BC, quote, stopping legal sales won't stop criminals from getting guns illegally. You're only restricting law-abiding citizens while doing little to address actual gun violence. When is the Prime Minister going to stop working against police, stop going after law-abiding citizens, and start going after the real problem, criminals? When are they?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I was surprised that our colleague raised the issue of border security. Our government, unlike the Conservative government previously, has invested precisely so the Canadian Border Services Agency would be able to interdict these illegal firearms crossing our borders. Mr. Speaker, we work with the RCMP, their policing partners, and border services. The Conservatives cut the funding to these agencies, laid off hundreds of border services agents, and had in fact plans to cut another 800. The good news, Mr. Speaker, is they lost the 2015 election. We reinvested in those important priorities for Canadians and will continue to do so.
The honourable member from Durham.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of NDP Liberals, crime is up because the Prime Minister's policies are failing. The Toronto Police Association says that violent crime is up 78% since these Liberals came into power. Shootings are up 45% since last year. Gun-related homicides up 62% since last year. So when will the Prime Minister start listening to police associations across Canada and admit he's adding to the crime wave, not fighting it?
That's right. Good question. The Honourable Minister of Justice and Procurator General.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate that member's contributions to the House. I just don't appreciate the hypocrisy. What I would say is that assault-style rifles aren't used for hunting deers. That's why we're taking them out of circulation. What I would also say with respect to guns and gangs is that if you don't want guns in our society, then you need to regulate the border. That's why we've invested over $390 million into the CBSA, exact money amounts that were cut by that party. He wasn't there yet, so I can't fault him in particular, but I will fault his party for not doing anything to keep our border safe and to keep guns out of our country.
The honourable member from Durham.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal Minister of Justice continues to reveal just how out of touch this government is. And we have real-time evidence of it. Just less than 3 hours ago, there was a shooting in Toronto near Shepherd and Yonge, not far actually from the Minister of Justice's riding. And in that situation, a person is now lying in the hospital in life-threatening condition. So when will this government actually take responsibility for the crime that it's causing and listen to the police?
That's right. Good question.
The Honourable Minister for Justice and Attorney General.
I can assure that member that I listen to the police all of the time. And you know what they tell me? They tell me that when you take guns out of circulation, what you do is you help on things like gender-based violence and domestic violence that occurs because women are getting killed because guns are in the homes. When you pass a bill like C-21, you disable that from happening because you ensure that you're keeping women in this country safe. That is a priority, or should be a priority, for this entire parliament. It's just really shocking that that member doesn't get it.
The honourable member for Drummond.
Okay,
all right, the honourable member for Drummond. Yesterday, in response to a question posed by the leader of the Bloc Québécois, the Prime Minister stated that what happened at Bedford School was just a matter of teachers' freedom of expression. I'm sorry, but imposing religious values in your classroom is not a matter of freedom of expression. This is exactly why we need secularism, which allows everybody to believe or not believe whatever they want. They only have to consult their own conscience freely. Do these liberals realize that they are attacking Quebecers' freedom of conscience? The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a great deal of respect for my colleague, but what he just said is revolting. The Prime Minister never said that. On several occasions, the Prime Minister has said that it is unacceptable that children in Quebec be treated in this manner. And he also said that it is up to the government of Quebec to take care of this issue. The Honourable Member for Drummond. We tried to talk to this Prime Minister about religious intolerance, and he has nothing more to say than that Liberals will always defend freedom of expression. Well, first of all, let me just say that religion is not necessarily a shining example of freedom of expression. But when there's an adult forcing their religious convictions on their classroom, that is not a matter of freedom. Religion belongs in the private sphere. We need to protect the separation of church and state, and yet the Liberals will be challenging that in the courts. Will this Liberal government finally commit to not challenging Bill 21, directly or indirectly? The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Once again, I am very disappointed by the doubtful arguments made by my colleague. First of all, I want to remind everyone, including those listening at home, is that respecting children's safety and dignity is everyone's responsibility. But when it comes to education jurisdiction, that's up to the government of Quebec.
The honourable member from Kelowna Lake Country.
After 9 years of these NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up. And violent gun crime is up 116% in Canada in just 9 years. Now, following the Prime Minister's out-of-touch comments, the Vancouver Police Association stated the Prime Minister is, quote, not aware of the ongoing gang war here in BC, which is putting both our members and public at risk on a daily basis. Right. Will the NDP Liberals listen to police and finally admit that their soft on crime policies are leading to the crime wave in Canada? Right.
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, one thing that's definitely up are slogans in this House of Commons. Mr. Speaker, we have said clearly that we will support law enforcement, both at the RCMP and in terms of their partners in policing, including police in British Columbia, municipal police in British Columbia. That's why we renewed the Guns and Gangs program, Mr. Speaker, that precisely puts money in the hands of these brave women and men who serve in municipal and provincial police forces so they can do the exact work that my colleague pretends she wants them to be able to do.
That's right.
The honourable member from Kelowna Lake Country.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's the police themselves that are saying that the policies of this Liberal government are a failure. And Conservatives are listening to police who know the facts about gun violence, public safety, and the real impact in our communities. Now, following the Prime Minister's out-of-touch comments, the Surrey Police Union stated, quote, "The federal handgun freeze fails to address the real issue, the surge of illegal firearms coming across our borders and ending up in the hands of violent criminals," unquote. 85% of seized firearms are traced back to the United States. So why doesn't the Prime Minister listen to our law enforcement by starting to crack down on smuggled guns from the U.S.?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, our government did precisely that. It listened to law enforcement professionals who asked us to reverse the cuts of the previous Harper government to the women and men who serve in our Border Services Agency and who do that excellent work at border crossings across the country. We also invested, Mr. Speaker, in the RCMP, who have responsibility between border crossings and who work with American partners on organized crime. We're doing the very work that our colleague on the other side pretends that she thinks is important. Why doesn't she support our government in removing assault-style firearms off the streets of Canada?
That's right.
The honourable member from Toronto, St. Paul's.
After 9 years of NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, time is up. The Prime Minister wants to pat himself on the back, but the data and the Toronto Police Association say he's out of touch. Last year in Toronto, we saw a 45% increase in shootings and a 62% increase in gun-related homicides. In St. Paul's, 2 people were murdered in Oakwood. A police officer was shot in Yonge and Eglinton, and armed home invasions happen every day. The Liberals make life easy for career criminals with their catch and release bail policies. When will this government finally come up with a plan to stop the crime and bring home safe streets?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, if that member expects us to apologize for taking assault-style weapons off of the streets, he's not going to get that. If that member thinks we're going to apologize for keeping women safe from domestic violence by implementing a handgun freeze, he's not going to get that apology. If that member thinks we're not going to take seriously the mental health impacts of suicides that are related to guns being in the homes, he's not going to get that apology. What he should do is actually think about what the police are asking for. They're asking for help with keeping Canadians safe. That's what we do every day on this side of the House.
L'honorable député de Lac-Saint-Louis.
The leader of the Conservatives has continued his party's tradition of inaction and negligence by refusing to get a security clearance. He chooses to play political games instead of working for Canadians to combat foreign interference. That's not common sense, Mr. Speaker. That's nonsense. Can the Minister of Justice and Attorney General tell Canadians how our government has taken historic action on foreign interference?
The Honourable Minister. Oh, one moment, please. The Honourable Minister for Justice and Attorney General.
I thank the member from Lac St. Louis for that important question. The Conservative leader continues to ignore national security. Instead of protecting Canadians, he prioritizes his partisan interests. This is not serious leadership, Mr. Speaker. I'll explain it in 3-word slogans just so that the Conservative leader gets it. It's time to get the clearance, take the briefing, protect the country. It's that simple.
Order, please. À l'ordre. The honourable member from Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, time is up, and now corruption is up.
GC Strategies, a two-person company working from their basement, started scooping up government contracts like candy just weeks after the Prime Minister took office. $20 million for doing nothing on the failed arrive scam, $100 million in total in government contracts. If that doesn't scream corruption, I don't know what does. Will the Liberals get our money back?
Here, here.
The Honourable Minister for Public Services and for Public Services.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Vous auriez pu le dire aussi en français, parce que c'est en français.
I'm happy to repeat this in French because this is something that my colleague has already heard several times in English. It's very good that the Auditor General and the RCMP are independent and that both of these organizations are doing the work that they are supposed to do, and we will support them in that.
The Honourable Member from Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker, the question is in English, but I digress. Liberal corruption is on rinse and repeat. The Auditor General is investigating $100 million in contracts awarded to GC Strategies, a two-person IT company that did no
Order. Colleagues. Order, please. Colleagues, it's very important for us to. I'm going to ask the Honourable Member to start his question again from the top, but I'll ask the member, please sit down for a second. I'm going to ask. Order, please. Order. I'm going to ask the Honourable Member to start again, but it's a very important fact. It's a basic fact here that questions can be asked in English or in French, and questions can be answered in English or in French. The Honourable Member to start from the top, please.
Corruption is on rinse and repeat. The Auditor General is investigating $100 million in contracts awarded to GC Strategies, a two-person IT company that did no IT work on the failed Arrive scam app. The RCMP has already raided the home of GC Strategies founder Christian Firth as part of an ongoing criminal investigation. Will the Liberals cut the corruption and again get the taxpayer its money back?
L'honorable ministre des Services publics et de l'approvisionnement.
Mr. Speaker, what we just heard is an insult to all Francophone members in this House, including Conservative members. Is the member trying to tell me that I don't have a right to speak French in this House?
À l'ordre, s'il vous plaît. Order. Order. The Honourable Member from St. Albert, Edmonton.
Can you say that in French?
And the Honourable Member from Alfred Pellan. Order. L'honorable député de Lévis-Lotbinière.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the Liberals are continuing to obstruct justice by refusing to produce unredacted documents. Meanwhile, the Liberals were caught red-handed giving a $20 million contract for the development of ArriveCan to the company GC Strategies, which only has 2 employees. That's a pretty darn high hourly rate, at a time when 2 million Canadians are lining up at food banks. Meanwhile, how many Liberal buddies have filled their pockets at the expense of Canadian families?
Le ministre du Service public et l'approvisionnement.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to congratulate my colleague for asking his question in French, but he could have asked the question in English, because in this House, we are free to speak whichever official language we wish. And I'd like to invite his previous colleague to apologize for having asked me to answer his question in English.
l'ordre, s'il vous plaît. L'honorable député de Lac.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent.
L'honorable député, the honourable member from Halifax West.
Let's see what this question. Speaker, foreign interference is an issue that's detrimental to our national security and to the safety of Canadians. We now know that agents of the Government of India have targeted Sikh and South Asian Canadians. National security experts, including 2 former directors of CSIS, have emphasized how important it is for all party leaders to get the security clearance to view and act on intelligence. Can the government House leader explain how crucial it is for party leaders to get the clearance to protect Canada's democratic institutions?
The honourable member from Niagara Falls, I'm going to ask him please to not take the floor unless he is being recognized by the Speaker. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague from Halifax West for that important question. It's a question that's on the mind of many Canadians, is why won't the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada get his security clearance, Mr. Speaker? It's interesting to note that his Conservative members of Parliament would rather put our national security, our allies, our intelligence, allyships, and quite frankly the lives of Canadians at risk, rather than have their leader get his security clearance. The question is why? What is he hiding and what is he trying to protect? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, this week the Liberals are destaffing 2 lighthouses along the coast of Vancouver Island without consultation. This jeopardizes emergency response, search and rescue, navigation, and more. Instead of supporting lightkeepers and the safety of our communities, the Liberals are choosing automated navigation systems. These cannot replace skilled people and sure don't hear distress cries. This move is dangerous. Will the Liberals halt this decision immediately and stop putting our coasts at risk?
L'honorable ministre des Pêches et Océans et la...
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are aware of the cultural and historic importance of these lighthouses. After a technical assessment carried out by the Coast Guard, it was determined that these lighthouses are no longer safe for staff. The safety and well-being of Coast Guard staff are our main priority, and I would like to reassure my colleague that navigational aids are functional to enable us to continue protecting sailors and coastal communities.
The Honourable Member from Spadina, Fort York.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Immigration, who intervened to stop a deportation order issued by his own department upheld by a federal court to protect a 5-time criminally convicted foreign national, is it his latest scheme to protect the IRGC by allowing them to falsely claim the refugees? Global News reported that refugee privacy is being exploited to hide behind closed-door proceedings. Why is his government continuing to make a mockery of Canada's legal and immigration systems? Mr. Speaker, is he the Minister of IRCC or the Minister for the IRGC?
Oh, yeah.
Colleagues, on at least three occasions, the chair has made rulings regarding associating members with odious regimes. This has gone on all sides of the House, and now with an independent member. I'm going to ask the honourable member from Fort York, Spadina, Fort York, to withdraw those words of that last part of that question. The honourable member.
Mr. Speaker, I withdraw.
I thank the honourable member. The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, our colleague raised GC. Our government has been very clear. The Iranian government is a state sponsor of terrorism. We have said that consistently. And Mr. Speaker, our government took the unprecedented step to list the IRGC as a terrorist entity under the Criminal Code of Canada. Mr. Speaker, our colleague understands very well that nobody in this House is going to discuss specific immigration cases, but he should have been happy that we listed that odious organization as a terrorist regime in Canada.
That's right.
The honourable member from Battle River Crowfoot is rising on a point of order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. In the 2024 annual report to Parliament on immigration that was tabled earlier this day, we need to. I'm not asking for unanimous consent. However, I am asking for clarification from the chair, because in the information that was tabled, the printed version does not have Annex 4. However, there was a last-minute photocopy that was that seems to be inserted. So to you, Mr. Speaker, I am wanting to clarify which version of the report that the minister tabled earlier today was actually tabled, and whether or not the one that was tabled does have this last-minute photocopy with the numbers in it.
So before I entertain a point of order, I thank the honourable member for raising this issue. The chair will take that information and come back to the House. The honourable minister is rising on a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, je pense que c'est très important.
I think it's really important to note that we saw a lack of respect, a clear lack of respect at this House of Commons to inaudible. Order, please.
Colleagues, the chair, I'll thank the honourable member. If he would like to assume the chair, he's more than welcome. Colleagues, the chair has already made a statement on this matter during question period. I see that the honourable member from Brantford Brant would like to rise in this place. The honourable member.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, in relation to the introduction of my second question, I made a reference to the question was originally in English. I was unable to hear the minister's response because of commotion in the House. My volume wasn't working correctly on my headpiece. That's why I made the reference. Clearly, I recognize, Mr. Speaker, that every member in this House is entitled to respond and ask questions in both official languages.
I thank the honourable member for reiterating the last point. I think, colleagues, I think this is the honourable member from Brantford Brant raises a very interesting point, which is that when people are taking the floor, when they're not, I say this to the conversation which is happening right now between the member from Pickering Uxbridge and the member from Lakelands. You cannot hear what is going on if there is too much ambient noise caused by people speaking out of turn. And this is a very important point. C'est un point.
It's a point that I have raised on several occasions, especially for those who are listening to the debate here in the chamber, in the other official language, through the interpretation services. It's so important for no one to speak out of turn so everyone can hear and understand. what's happening here in the chamber. Point of order, the honourable member for Louisberg. Mr. Speaker, the member for Brentford-Brant is clearly trying to step away from what he said. We all understood what he was trying to do, and he tried to suggest that that member for Quebec should not answer in French, and now he should apologize. It's inaudible.
The chair has heard enough points on this matter, and we are moving on.
As it is 3:18, the House will now move to the deferred recorded division on the motion to concur in the 12th report of the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage. Calling the members.
La question est la suivante.
The question is as follows. Mr. Lemire, seconded by Ms. Larouche, move that the 12th report of the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage presented on Wednesday, June 19, 2024, be concurred in.
De 10 minutes pour les députés votant.
The 10-minute period for members voting electronically has started. The House will now proceed to the vote for members participating in person.
Que tous ceux
All those in favor of the motion will please rise.
Gould.
Ms. Gould.
Mr. Guilbeault.
Mr. Guilbeault.
Ms. Tassi.
Ms. Tassi.
Mr. Varani.
Mr. Varani.
Mr. McKay.
Mr. McKay.
Mr. Scarpaleggia.
Mr. Scarpaleggia.
Mr. Casey.
Mr. Casey.
Mr. Vandal.
Mr. Vandal.
Ms. Sahota.
Ms. Sahota.
Madame Le Boutillier.
Madame Le Boutillier.
Madame Bibeau.
Madame Bibeau.
Madame Petitpas-Taylor.
Madame Petitpas-Taylor.
Mr. Ananda Sangari.
Mr. Ananda Sangari.
Madame Lalonde.
Madame Lalonde.
Mrs. Romanato.
Mrs. Romanato.
Mr. Sheehan.
Mr. Sheehan.
Mr. Oliphant.
Mr. Oliphant.
Madame Bendayan.
Madame Bendayan.
Mr. Lamoureux.
Mr. Lamoureux.
Mr. Fragiscatos.
Mr. Fragiscatos.
Ms. De Brusen.
Mr. Brusen.
Mr. May Cambridge.
Mr. May Cambridge.
Ms. Dillon.
Ms. Dillon.
Monsieur El Khoury.
Monsieur El Khoury.
Mr. Hardy.
Mr. Hardy.
Mr. Nakvi.
Mr. Nakvi.
Mr. Cedar Brampton East.
Mr. Cedar Brampton East.
Mr. Badaway.
Mr. Badaway.
Mr. Souza.
Mr. Souza.
Mr. Duguid.
Mr. Duguid.
Mrs. Atwin.
Mrs. Atwin.
Ms. Vandenbeld.
Ms. Vandenbeld.
Madame Koutrakis.
Madame Koutrakis.
Mr. McKinnon, Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam.
Mr. McKinnon, Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam.
Mr. McLeod.
Mr. McLeod.
Mr. Morrissey.
Mr. Morrissey.
Monsieur Robillard.
Monsieur Robillard.
Madame Shanahan.
Madame Shanahan.
Miss Cedar Brampton South.
Miss Cedar Brampton South.
Mr. Sorbera.
Mr. Sorbera.
Miss Hefner.
Miss Hefner.
Mr. Chang.
Mr. Chang.
Ms. Yip.
Ms. Yip.
Mr. Van Bynen.
Mr. Van Bynen.
Mr. Weiler.
Mr. Weiler.
Ms. Bradford.
Ms. Bradford.
Mr. Gahir.
Mr. Gahir.
Mr. Hanley.
Mr. Hanley.
Madame Lapointe.
Madame Lapointe.
Ms. Taylor Roy.
Ms. Taylor Roy.
Ms. Thompson.
Ms. Thompson.
Mr. Schmale.
Mr. Schmale.
Mr. Bizan.
Mr. Bizan.
Mr. Williams.
Mr. Williams.
Mr. Perkins.
Mr. Perkins.
Mr. Brock.
Mr. Brock.
Mrs. Stubbs.
Mrs. Stubbs.
Ms. Lanceman.
Ms. Lanceman.
Mrs. Gray.
Mrs. Gray.
Ms. Dancho.
Ms. Dancho.
Mr. Ellis.
Mr. Ellis.
Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Baldinelli.
Mr. Baldinelli.
Mr. Cooper.
Mr. Cooper.
Mr. Kimmich.
Mr. Kimmich.
Mr. Couric.
Mr. Couric.
Mr. Small.
Mr. Small.
Mr. Berthold.
Mr. Berthold.
Mr. Workington.
Mr. Workington.
Mr. Abultaif.
Mr. Abultaif.
Ms. Ferrari.
Ms. Ferrari.
Mr. Viss.
Mr. Viss.
Mr. Doherty.
Mr. Doherty.
Mr. Macaulay-Edmonton West.
Mr. Macaulay-Edmonton West.
Mr. Lloyd.
Mr. Lloyd.
Mrs. Goodridge.
Mrs. Goodridge.
Mr. Moore.
Mr. Moore.
Mr. Morantz.
Mr. Morantz.
Mrs. Roberts.
Mrs. Roberts.
Mr. Malillo.
Mr. Malillo.
Mrs. Kramp-Nyman.
Mrs. Kramp-Nyman.
Madame Vien.
Madame Vien.
Mr. Patzer.
Mr. Patzer.
Mrs. Gallant.
Mrs. Gallant.
Mr. Shipley.
Mr. Shipley.
Mr. Muse.
Mr. Muse.
Mr. Van Popta.
Mr. Van Popta.
Mr. Steinley.
Mr. Steinley.
Mr. Genereux.
Monsieur Genereux.
Mr. Genereux.
Mr. Genereux.
Mr. Mazier.
Mr. Major.
Mr. Gould.
Monsieur Gould.
Mr. Epp.
Mr. Epp.
Mr. Dreeshen.
Mr. Dreeshen.
Mr. Cram.
Mr. Cram.
Mr. Tolmie.
Mr. Tolmie.
Mr. Dalton.
Mr. Dalton.
Mr. Nader.
Mr. Nader.
Mr. McLean.
Mr. McLean.
Mr. McGuire.
Mr. McGuire.
Mr. Reed.
Mr. Reed.
Mr. Shields.
Mr. Shields.
Mr. Mott.
Mr. Mott.
Mr. Arnold.
Mr. Arnold.
Mr. Soroka.
Mr. Soroka.
Mr. Dowdle.
Mr. Dowdle.
Mr. Viersen.
Mr. Viersen.
Mr. Fast.
Mr. Fast.
Mr. Leipert.
Mr. Leipert.
Mr. Kitchen.
Mr. Kitchen.
Mr. Giovanni.
Mr. Giovanni.
Madame Normandin.
Madame Normandin.
Monsieur Garon.
Monsieur Garon.
Madame Michaud.
Madame Michaud.
Monsieur Thériault.
Monsieur Thériault.
Madame Gaudreau.
Madame Gaudreau.
Madame Larouche.
Madame Larouche.
Monsieur Barcelou-Duval.
Monsieur Barcelou-Duval.
Monsieur Savard-Tremblay.
Monsieur Savard-Tremblay.
Monsieur Beaulieu.
Monsieur Beaulieu.
Monsieur Lemire.
Monsieur Lemire.
Madame Chabot.
Madame Chabot.
Monsieur Trudel.
Monsieur Trudel.
Monsieur Blanchette-Jonca.
Monsieur Blanchette-Jonca.
Madame Bérubé.
Madame Bérubé.
Monsieur Desilets.
Monsieur Desilets.
Mr. Julian.
Mr. Julian.
Miss McPherson.
Miss McPherson.
Mr. McGregor.
Mr. McGregor.
Ms. Dance.
Ms. Dance.
Ms. Blaney.
Ms. Blaney.
Madame Hughes.
Madame Hughes.
Mr. Desjardins.
Mr. Desjardins.
Back to Ms. Barron.
Ms. Barron.
Ms. Zerillo.
Ms. Zerillo.
All those opposed to the motion will please rise.
La Chambre attendra maintenant la fin.
The House will now wait for the electronic voting period to end before resuming its proceedings.